Good morning, children. How are you? I hope you all are fine. In the last class, we finished our first unit in the main course book. Now we have to do our worksheet of the first unit. So children, please take your worksheet. Let's answer the questions in the worksheet. Are you ready? Then let's get started.
Children, let's do the first worksheet together. Read and answer. Here a passage is given. We need to read this passage and find out the answers for the questions that follows. Let's start. Read the passage. The frogs in a certain swarm lived very happily without a ruler. So this passage is about frogs. The frogs in a certain swarm. What do you mean by swarm? Swarm means soft, wet land. Okay, swarm means soft, wet land. You can write down the meaning here in your worksheet. Swarm means soft, wet land. There was a soft, wet land where some frogs lived very happily without a ruler. Ruler means king. However, one day they decided that they wanted a ruler. Though the frogs lived happily without a king, one day they thought that they needed a ruler. They decided to have a king. So they prayed to God for one. So these frogs prayed to God for giving them a king. Since God realized how silly their demand was, He sent them a king who could not harm them. On hearing their request, God sent them a king who could not harm them, who could not hurt them. He tossed a big log into the middle of the pond. Who is the he mentioned here? He is God. Okay. God tossed a big log. What do you mean by tossed? Toss means throw something lightly or carelessly. Okay. Tossed means threw carelessly or lightly. God threw a big log. What do you mean by log? Log means thick piece of wood. Okay, log means thick piece of wood. Thick piece of wood that is cut from or has fallen from a tree. Okay, thick piece of wood that is cut from or has fallen from a tree. God threw a big piece of wood into the middle of the pond. Hearing the splash, the frogs were terribly frightened. Hearing the splash. Here the splash means sound produced by the log. Okay, the sound produced when the log fell into the water. Sound produced when the log fell into water. Hearing the splash, hearing the sound of the log, the frogs were terribly frightened. What do you mean by terribly? Terribly means extremely. The frogs were very much frightened. They were very much afraid. Hearing this noise and dived into their holes to hide from King Log. Hearing the splash, the frogs were very much frightened. They were very much afraid and they moved quickly into their holes. They got into their holes to hide from their new king, King Log. After a while, after some time, when they saw that the king never moved, they got over their fright. After some time, they noticed that their king never moved. Their king, the thick piece of wood, is remaining motionless. It is not moving. And so the frogs got over their fright and went and sat on him. The frogs are no longer frightened. They went near the log and sat on top of the log. They sat on the wood. And as soon as they found he really could not hurt them, they began to despise him. See? When the frogs realized that their new king, the log, could not hurt them, they began to despise him. What do you mean by despise? Despise means dislike. Dislike or showing no respect. They no longer respected their king. They disliked their king. Finally, they prayed to God for a new ruler. Finally, at last, eventually, ultimately, the frogs prayed to God for a new king. So God sent them an eel. What do you mean by eel? Eel means, eel is a long fish. Okay, eel is a long fish like a snake. It is a long fish like a snake. If you Google it, you can see its picture. Eel is a long fish like a snake. So, when the frogs requested God to give them another ruler, God sent them an eel as their new king. The frogs were pleased when Queen Eel came wriggling and swimming among them. So, on seeing the eel, on seeing their new ruler, the frogs were pleased. They were happy. How did the eel come? The eel came wriggling and swimming. Wriggling means? What do you mean by wriggle? Wriggling. Wriggle means move with quick, short twists and turns. Move with quick, short twists and turns. So the eel came wriggling and swimming among them. But as the days went on, as days passed, and the eel was perfectly harmless, they stopped being afraid and they stopped respecting her. So as days passed, the frogs realized that the eel was perfectly harmless. The eel does not do them any harm. It has no ability to hurt the frogs. And so the frogs stopped being afraid. The frogs are no longer afraid of their ruler. They stopped respecting the eel. So they begged for another ruler. So the frogs again they requested for another ruler. Since the foolish frogs were not happy, God finally sent them a stork. Seeing the attitude of the frogs, okay, since the foolish frogs were not happy, the frogs were not satisfied with the rulers that God sent to them. On seeing the attitude of the frogs, God ultimately sent them a stork. What do you mean by a stork? Stork is a large, long-legged wading bird. In Malayalam we say kokku. Kokku, stork, kokku. As soon as the frogs came to the surface to greet the new king, King Stork caught some of them in his long bill and gobbled them up. When the frogs came to meet their new king, to greet their new king, who is their new king? The new king is Stork. So as the frogs came to greet their new king, King Stork caught some of them. King Stork, the bird, caught some of these frogs in his long bill. Bill means beak. Okay? Bill means beak. The stork caught some of the frogs using its long beak and gobbled them up and ate them up. Gobbled. We have already learned the word gobble in our chapter, The Mice That Ate Iron. Isn't it? Gobble means eat something quickly and greedily. Gobble means eat something quickly and greedily. The stork ate the frogs. The other frogs hopped away in fear. The stork ate some of the frogs and the rest of the frogs hopped away in fear. Hopped away means jumped away. You are familiar with frog jump, isn't it? The other frogs just jumped away in fear. The hop is a word that we use to denote the movement of frogs. Okay. The other frogs simply jumped away in fear. Now they could never swim peacefully in the pond. The frogs could no longer swim peacefully in the pond. Why? Because the stork may catch them. The stork may gobble them up. So this is a passage. Now we need to read the questions and find out their answers. Choose words from the box to complete these sentences. Some words are extra. Which are the words given in the box? Queen, lesson, stork, log, sat, ruler, eel, foolishness. Using some of these words, we need to fill in the blanks. First sentence, although the frogs had lived happily without a dash, they decided that they wanted one. What will be the answer? Although the frogs had lived happily without a ruler, they decided that they wanted one. Second one, since the log never moved, the frogs dashed on him. The frogs sat on him. Third one, the second creature sent to them was an eel. We know that we should use the article and before words which begin with vowel sound. Here, the word eel begins with the vowel sound, vowel E. Okay? So, the article an is used. The article an is used before words which begin with vowels. Next, at last they learned their dash. At last they learned their lesson. Please write down the answers in your worksheet. Next, tick the correct answers. You can read these questions and you should put a tick mark against the correct answers. This session is very simple. These questions are very simple. Just read these questions and find out the answer. Choose the right one. Put a tick mark against the right answer. Can you do it? We can discuss the answers of these questions during our evening class. Okay? Answer the following. First one, why were the frogs not happy with King Log? Children, you can take down these answers in your worksheet. Okay? Please write down these answers in your worksheet. Why were the frogs not happy with King Log? The frogs were not happy with King Log because he did not move and did not do anything. Next question. What qualities were the frogs looking for in a ruler? The frogs were looking for a strong ruler whom they could fear and admire. Third question. Why did God send them a stork? God sent them a stork because the frogs needed to be taught a lesson. Is this clear to you? Next one. Complete these sentences in your own words to create a summary of the story. A few incomplete sentences are given below. We need to complete these sentences. I have already written the answers. Please write down these answers in your worksheet. One day, the frogs decided that they wanted a ruler. At first, God sent them a big piece of log. Next, God sent them an eel. But the frogs were dissatisfied because both of them were harmless and meek. Finally, God sent them a stork. The stork ate some of the frogs and frightened the rest. I hope this is clear to you. Now let's move on to the second worksheet. Children, we can do the third worksheet in our next class. Okay? We can do the third worksheet in our next class. Today let's do the first, second and fourth worksheets. Now let's do the second worksheet. Worksheet 2. Match these animals with the movements that they make. Here on the left side, we can see the pictures of some animals. And in the right side, we can see some words denoting their movements. For example, We know that birds fly in the sky, isn't it? Birds fly in the sky. So the word used to denote the movement of bird is fly. Similarly, we need to find out the words that denote the movement of these animals. Shall we get started? Okay, the first one. The first one is a picture of a horse. Which word among these is used to denote the movement of a horse? Horse, gallop. We say horse gallop. Okay. Gallop is a word denoting the movement of a horse. Then second one is a frog. You can see the picture of a frog. What do frogs do? Frogs hop. You can number it here. Okay. Frogs hop. Then third one is a fish. We know that fish swims in the river. Swim. Okay, fish swim. Then fourth one, snake. What do snakes do? Snakes slither. Snakes slither. Then fifth one, bird. Birds fly in the sky. We know that birds fly in the sky. Then sixth word, elephant. Sixth animal is elephant. How do elephants move? Elephants amble. Okay, is it clear? Horse, gallop, frog, hop, fish, swim, snake, slither, bird, fly, elephant, amble. So, the order of the number is 4, 1, 6, 2, 3, 5. You can number it here. Now, let's move on to the next question. Find 8 things you would see in your house in this word search. Here you can see a box with many letters written in it. 8 words are hidden in this box. 8 things that we can find in our house. Find 8 things you would see in your house in this word search. Here inside this box, we can see 8 things which are used in our house. We need to find out those things. I will give you 2 examples. One is curtain. Here you can see curtain. Then another one is mirror. Mirror. Okay, I have given you 2 examples. Now you can find 6 more words inside this box. Okay, you should find 6 more words in it. Can you do it? It's very interesting, isn't it? Please do it on your own. Okay. Let's move on to the 4th worksheet. Worksheet 4. In this worksheet, there are 3 activities given. These are intended to improve your listening, speaking and writing skills. Let's read the first one. Listening. Listen to your teacher read out some sentences. Circle the words that you hear. Children, I will read out some sentences. I will read out 5 sentences. You should circle the words that you hear. Okay? Listen carefully and you should circle the words that you hear in those sentences. Okay, the first sentence, 3 words are given here. You should circle the word that you hear in this sentence. Okay, first sentence is, Nina drinks a glass of milk every morning. Nina drinks a glass of milk every morning. 3 words are given here. Which word did you hear in that sentence? Please circle that word. Then the second one. I will read out the second sentence. Please listen carefully. The roots of this tree spread far and wide. The roots of this tree spread far and wide. You can circle the word that you heard just now. Then, third sentence. Please place those books on the table. Please place those books on the table. Then, fourth sentence. This recipe needs very little salt. This recipe needs very little salt. Fifth sentence. Do not cross the road unless the walking signal is green. Do not cross the road unless the walking signal is green. Okay? Among these three words, which one did you hear just now? Please circle that word. Please do it as homework. Then, next activity. Next activity is intended to improve your speaking skill. Work in groups of 4. This is actually a group activity, but we can do it as an individual activity. Take turns and tell each other what you like to do on Sundays. You could talk about what time you wake up, what games or activities you enjoy, what you like to eat for breakfast, how you spend time with your family. Children, here you need to talk about what you like to do on Sundays. We know that Sundays are holidays. What you like to do on your holidays? What you like to do on Sundays? You can talk about at what time you wake up on Sundays, what you like to eat for breakfast on Sunday, and what games or activities you enjoy on your holidays, then how you spend time with your family. You can talk about these things. Please send your voice to me. Okay? Please send your voice in WhatsApp. Please send the audio clip in WhatsApp. I will give you an example. I will answer this question. You should do it on your own. Okay? You can give me your own answer. You can consider this just as a model. You should give me your own answer. You should tell me in your own words. My answer is, on Sundays, I find it very easy to wake up. Maybe it's because I don't have to rush off to school. I get up by around 8 a.m. Wash and then eat a delicious breakfast. Papa usually makes doshas, my favorite. Then I read for a while. At 10 a.m., all my friends gather for a cricket match. We play until lunchtime. After lunch, I take a nap. In the evening, Mama and Papa take me out. We stroll by the beach or watch a movie or visit some friends. It is the most enjoyable day of the week. See children, this is my answer. You can just take it as a model and you can send me your answers. Okay? Please send me your answers before our evening class. Then the third activity, writing. Many wonderful stories have a lot of magic in them. Think of your favorite story that uses magic or magical creatures. Write a short summary of that book or story. You could include the plot, the main characters, and the style of the story. Children, we know that there are many stories that have a lot of magic in them. Okay? You might have read some stories which have magic in them, which talks about magic and magical creatures. Think of your favorite story that uses magic or magical creatures. Write a short summary of that book or story. You can write about that book. Okay, you can write about that book or that story. You can write about that story. You could include the plot, the main characters and the style of the story. You can write about the summary of the story. You can write the summary of the story. Then you can write about the main characters in that story, the people mentioned in that story, and the style of the story. Okay? If you haven't read any stories, any magical stories, any stories with magical characters, then you can write about any story that you have read. Okay? If you haven't read any stories, any story that uses magic or magical creatures, then you can simply write about any story that you have read. Okay? I will give you an answer. You can take this as a model and you can complete it. You should write it down here. You can write about your favorite story in these given blanks. Okay? I will read out my answer. You should write your own answer. Okay? My favorite magical story is Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. It is written by J.K. Rowling. It is the story of a little orphan boy who realizes that he is a wizard. He studies at a special school for witchcraft. He has two very close friends, Ron and Hermione. They help him defeat the forces of evil. Evil forces are interested in a special stone which can bring the dead to life. However, Harry bravely goes through many adventures and difficulties and prevents the stone from falling into the wrong hands. I like this book because it is set in a very interesting world and because the characters are brave and intelligent. Children, did you listen carefully? This is my answer. You can write your own answer in the space given here. Okay? You can write about your favorite story or your favorite book in these blanks. Can you do it? Please try to write it and submit it to me before our evening class if it is possible. Okay?
Children, do you have any doubts? If you have any doubts, please feel free to ask me. Okay? Do your homework and submit it to me before our evening class. That's all for today. Thank you and have a nice day.